Let's Talk Education. It's 15 minutes of information about the policies, programs, and activities of our schools and the Ministry of Education. Join us and let's talk education.
Good day, viewers. Welcome to Let's Talk Education. I'm your host, Patricia Evans. Our guest today on Let's Talk Education is Mr. Colvis Samuels, Technical and Vocational Education and Training Education Officer in the Ministry of Education. Welcome, Mr. Samuels.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evans.
Mr. Samuels, as the Education Officer for TVET, which is the Technical Vocational Education and Training, what does your work necessitate?
Well, my duties as the Education Officer essentially is to manage the TVET system throughout the education system in St. Lucia. That will include, of course, managing what happens as it relates to the curriculum, materials as it relates to the function of the different TVET areas in the school system, interfacing with teachers, etc. Apart from that, I'm expected to interface with entities outside of the system, and we're talking about NSDC, CARE, NELU, even SAFA Lois, because at the end of the day, all of them contribute to the formal education system as it stands. Outside of that, I have another responsibility of managing what happens internationally as well, speaking about the ILO, CXC, OECS, CARICOM, etc. So anything as it relates to TVET fall under my jurisdiction in the education system and for some reasons outside. And one more thing I must add, I'm also the executive director in some ways of the TVET Council.
Very good.
TVET Council, because the TVET unit is the executive arm of the TVET Council, especially within the education system. So whatever policies are dictated by the council are transmitted to the unit through me, and I'm required to execute on their behalf.
Very good. What constitutes TVET?
Well, TVET generally refers to the acquisition of knowledge, skills, and attitudes as it relates to the preparation for work. However, work does not only commence at the end of secondary school, it commences at any point in your life. So work could also refer to people who have their doctorates or whatever. So contrary to what we believe, it's not only the plumbers and the mechanics and stuff, we also go beyond that. And under that, we have a number of areas that would include building technology, food and nutrition, mechanical engineering technology. Strangely enough, a lot of people don't realize that business also also falls under TVET. So it's a wide spectrum of subjects, but it's also philosophy that has to do with preparation for work.
Yes, yes. You are actually new in this position as the Technical Vocational Educational and Training Officer.
Yes.
The former was the chairman, is now the chairperson of the TVET Council.
Yes.
Now that you are the Technical and Vocational Education and Training Education Officer, what is going to be the direction for TVET under your leadership?
Well, firstly, I expect the education system in responding to TVET to be nimble, agile, and respond to the realities as they obtain in the workplace and industry, because at the end of the day, we are preparing persons for the world of work. At this point in time, I'm not necessarily certain that all of us understand that TVET is more than what obtains in the education system per se. We have to start engaging in a serious way business and industry, and they will in some ways guide how we train. There is a significant mismatch between our training endeavors and the labor market realities, and we need to bring those closer together. As a matter of fact, as we speak, there's an expert team from UNESCO here in St. Lucia working on the national TVET policy. It has been long in coming, but it's better late than never.
True.
And by September of this year, we expect to have a national TVET policy. So those are some of the things I intend to do. We, of course, have problems with resources. So rather than wait on the government per se to provide us with the resources, I'm looking at developing an alternative source of funding and actually structuring it so that we can approach donor agencies, etc., to assist in this regard. recognizing too that resources are difficult to come by, I'm thinking that we should consolidate. So rather than having all of the schools do everything, we probably focus on some schools doing a few things well, and setting up agencies around the country, probably 4 or so, including using schools and bringing on stream the NSDC facilities as it relates to providing that service. We've already spoken to, let's say, the persons at Sufre. Cashews Comprehensive is a prime target for that because of the grounding, the facilities, etc.
Yes.
The View Fort Comprehensive, Larissos.
Well.
And in the east, we have the Grand River Secondary School, who is controlled by Mr. Sipal, who is an ardent supporter of TVET and has been pushing TVET. And so that is probably one of our proving grounds, and those are some of the facilities we're looking at as it relates to probably making them performance centers or centers of excellence in some way. So other schools can then go there to get whatever is required. So Afro-Lewis also must get on board because that's a premier training institution on the island, and they already have some facilities. As a matter of fact, they have a well-equipped farm, and that could be used to help provide some of the grounding for the students in the system.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Colvis. We're about to take a short break, and when we return, we will continue this interesting discussion.
Interesting. I'm happy that I've contributed. Yeah.
Viewers, we're about to take a break. We'll be right back with our special guest on Let's Talk Education today, who is Mr. Colvis Samuels, Technical and Vocational Educational and Training Education Officer in the Ministry of Education.
Let's Talk Education. It's 15 minutes of information about the policies, programs, and activities of our schools and the Ministry of Education. Join us and let's talk education.
Welcome back, viewers, to Let's Talk Education with our special guest, Mr. Colvis Samuels, Technical and Vocational Education and Training Education Officer in the Ministry of Education. Before we took our break, Mr. Samuels, you gave your vision for TVET under your leadership. Brilliant ideas, I must admit. But do you foresee challenges facing TVET, and how are you going to overcome those challenges?
Well, as a matter of fact, having been in TVET for the longest while, I am quite aware of some of the challenges that I'm going to encounter. As a matter of fact, I've started encountering. Among those, of course, and these are not in any order, will be the image of TVET. A lot of people or persons are of the opinion that TVET is only for those persons who are not necessarily endowed intellectually, and only if, and for the ones with brawn as opposed to brain, and that must be dispelled. But even as we say that, and I know it's not going to come turn around in the immediate future, we're going to make attempts to change that in some ways. And of course, we ourselves have to operate in a particular manner, in a professional manner, to demand respect as opposed to just expect respect to be bestowed upon us. Apart from the image aspect, we also anticipate, and I know for a fact that we have serious constraints as they relate to resources.
Yes.
TVET is very expensive, and I suspect that's one of the reasons why people run away from it, apart from the fact that we need to have our literacy and numeracy where it's supposed to be. But it's expensive. One bit of equipment in, let's say, a mechanical engineering and technology section can cost tens of thousands of dollars, as opposed to a pencil and, or even a laptop.
Yes.
So that's a problem, and it means that we have to address how we generate funds to provide these equipment. Not only do we need to provide equipment, but we need to maintain the equipment, so that also is a cost. So that's a serious problem. The system as it stands is somewhat neglected, and I can very well understand why, because it's as I said, an extremely extensive cost. So we have to, in some cases, replace, even before we put in new stuff. So one of the first things we have to do is execute an assessment to determine where we are right now and where we're supposed to be. That is, of course, a gap analysis, and apply the necessary budgets, and then approach donor agencies as opposed to waiting on on government, as I mentioned previously. It also means that we have to probably prioritize in terms of what we do where, which schools are going to do what, etc. And share facilities. At this point in time, we have facilities in certain schools, and you can well understand that situation, that lie idle because the students, let's say you only have 1 or 2 classes using, let's say, equipment in building technology or whatever. So we have to look at sharing resources so that we can maximize the use. We also have to improve our efficiency. Another challenge I anticipate is that of our teachers themselves, who, even though in most cases they have the content, they lack what you call a competency-based education training modality as it relates to training. We're still steeped
so that it could be impact. Yes.
Yes. And we're still steeped in the traditional modality of chalk and talk, even though we have the technology to take us to the next level. So we need to reorient our teachers. I prefer to call them facilitators, because teaching itself is an outmoded term. Facilitators, and instead of students, you call them learners or candidates or whatever. So we change the perception going forward. So those are some of the main ones. With the teachers as well, we have to conduct an in-depth analysis to determine who needs what, plan a training program accordingly, and label that our professional development endeavors. So it will include, of course, as I said, training in TVET. You also, since we're moving towards the CVQ, the Caribbean Vocation Qualification, we need to equip our teachers, not just in terms of the physical resources, but the ones that require the cerebral activity, etc., in terms of them being trained as assessors and being trained to look at things differently, using a constructive as opposed to the traditional method of education. So those are some of the challenges, 3 of them to be exact, and in my opinion, the main ones. There are a number of others that we'll take as we go along. Collaboration, for instance, between the training institutions and industry. That's not where it's supposed to be. We have to ensure that we develop these synergies, these collaborations at all levels, so that we can have interaction, movement from, let's say, secondary schools into tertiary training. Students are not generally prepared the way they should be. If you also consider that 70% of the students who leave secondary schools go into the world of work, we have to ensure that we prepare these people to self-actualize.
The adequate skills that
the skills,
the labor force needs, really.
Right, and while we're doing that, we also must ensure that we train them in such a way that they're able to accept whatever responsibilities or opportunities that are available, because we know too that people change jobs through their lifetime, sometimes between 5 to 7 times. So if you train them in one particular area, or if you're too specialized, then you will also run into problems. So we need to have a broad-based type education system and philosophy going forward.
And two, the labor market is expanding every year, and with the what you'd call with the admittance of technology, right now you find that there are more skills that persons are looking for and persons are looking to utilize in the workforce.
Exactly, and while you say that, there are some skills also that are becoming obsolete.
Yes, very much so, especially with the fact that the admittance of technology, as well. Mr. Samuels, you mentioned the CVQ, and I would like to touch base on the CVQ, especially for our viewers to understand what it is and what really constitutes the CVQ. So I am going to gently ask you, since we are running out of time, that would you like to come back for a second interview where we could look at actually, especially the CVQ, so persons could understand what it is and what it really so persons can understand what it is and the benefits of actually enrolling into courses that they can actually attain a CVQ certificate.
No problem. So I'm happy to come back at any time. As a matter of fact, the CVQ is a modality that has been put in place by CARICOM.
Yes, it is.
And the certification is portable, meaning that if you're certified in St. Lucia, in whatever official area, you can travel any part of CARICOM and be employed.
So like I said, I would like to have you back so we could actually look at the CVQ in depth, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank you. We are now at the end of our program. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. I wish you well into your endeavors, especially as the Technical Vocational Educational and Training Education Officer in the Ministry of Education. I wish you all the best, and through speaking with you, I can tell you have a passion for TVET, and I hope that TVET, your vision for TVET, comes comes to a reality. Viewers, you have been watching Let's Talk Education. Thank you for viewing. I have been your host, Patricia Evans, with our special guest, Mr. Colvis Samuels, Technical and Vocational Education and Training Education Officer in the Ministry of Education. Please see us again at our next Let's Talk Education. Thank you.